Okay, there we go. All right. Hi, guys. I'm Christy Cisneros with Finance of America Mortgage, and I am here with Jeff Sipes, owner of Blue Water Credit in Roseville, California. And we're going to chat a little bit about one of the most important factors in getting pre-approved for a home loan, credit. We get lots of questions about credit, what to do, how to bring our scores up, how to build credit, what to focus on and what not to focus on. And a lot of our clients that have challenged credit, we send over to Jeff and his team at Blue Water to help them, bring up their scores and work on anything that they're having issues with. So, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks for having me on your show. I'm glad to help. And we have a ton of resources on our website, which is bluewatercredit.com. We've got some ebooks you can download for free. So yeah, our number one goal is to help people improve their credit so they can get the best financing terms when they go to buy their house. Just like we were talking about before we started this, is how crazy the housing market is. And so obviously with prices high, we want credit scores high so you can get the best interest rates on the loans.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the first things that we look at, and having that higher score is always going to improve pricing and product availability to the customer. So one of the questions that I get asked a lot is how clients can improve their score. So I wanted to touch on that. What are some of the best ways that you would recommend clients can build their credit?
Sure. Yeah. So building credit, typically, maybe somebody doesn't have a lot of open accounts, or somebody just turned 18 and they're getting started, or maybe somebody just filed for bankruptcy, or maybe somebody just hasn't ever cared about credit and they want to build it. So we recommend, if you don't have any open credit cards, you want to get a secured credit card. You can get a secured credit card. We offer a secured card, so we can help you with that. You can go to your bank. Typically, most banks have a secured card, and a secured card is where you put down a security deposit. Usually it's, $200, $300, $400, $500, and then you get a credit card with that same limit. The security deposit is just as collateral, so that if you defaulted on your card, then they would keep that. So that's a great way to build credit. You can also add to someone's credit card as an authorized user. So if you have a spouse or significant other or a family member that has an old credit card, they can call and add you to that credit card. You don't have to use the card at all.
Right.
But then when that shows up on your credit history, you inherit the entire payment history. So it really helps build up the credit fast. And
That's
then,
awesome.
Yeah. And then FICO really likes to see 3 to 6 accounts open, paid as agreed. So if you have, only 1 or 2 open accounts, then we definitely recommend maybe getting another secured card. We also have a credit builder loan. It's $15 a month. It goes into a savings account, and it shows up on all 3 credit bureaus, just like a car loan. And you can make the payments up to 10 years on that. And then it's a savings account that you can have access to once it's done. And so that's a great way to build credit. And it's only $15 a month to do that.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know about that. I do tell a lot of people to do to add the authorized user. I'm actually getting ready to do that for my daughter because she's 15 and a half. And I think, do you know what age it is that you can add them?
Usually 18, but you can try and add it. And then as soon as your daughter turns 18, she'll have that instant credit history built up.
Just trying to help them build that credit, because they kind of they turn 18 and then you send them out into the world and they have no idea what to do and they have no credit. And so, yeah. So what else did I want to ask you about? What are some of the fastest ways to increase your credit score? Would that be sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, with credit, what's interesting about credit is most credit cards, most creditors only report to the credit bureaus once a month. So for you to do anything really, it's a 30-day increment before you start to see changes. So FICO says 1 maxed out credit card can lower your score by 40 points. So if you have a small credit card, like a secured card, like I mentioned a moment ago, with a $300 limit, and you go to Costco and you spend $300, that could lower your score by 40 points.
Right.
And better than anyone, a 40-point difference on your credit score can really impact your rate or your payment, on a loan. And so we recommend that you use between 1 and 10% of your limit. So on a $500 credit card, that's $5 to $50. That will give you the highest possible credit score. And so if you don't have funds to pay off all your credit cards, we recommend, Dave Ramsey is really good about how to get out of debt. And he talks about the debt snowball or the debt avalanche. Now, for those of you that are familiar with those two, the debt snowball is where you pay off the smallest balances first. And that's typically going to move your credit score up the fastest. So if you don't have funds to pay off all your cards, we recommend paying off the smallest limits first. That'll move your credit score up the fastest.
Keeping the balance as low as possible. So the more accounts that you have with the lower balances, the better off you are.
Yep, you're exactly right.
Awesome. Yeah, and I've always heard a good credit mix is an installment loan and a couple of revolving loans. So you can kind of get that with either your loan that you guys offer, that's an installment loan, right?
Yep, it is, yeah.
Or an auto loan.
Yep.
I usually tell people an auto loan and a couple of revolving credit cards, and keep the balance to limit ratio really low.
Yeah.
And pay them off if you can. Just put like a tank of gas or groceries on it and then pay it off every month if you're trying to build credit. And it's something that I've always kind of tried to do myself to keep, my credit up. So
yeah. And then one other thing I'll kind of add to that is FICO doesn't really like to see a new account with less than a 2-year payment history. And then also they like to see an old account. They like to see, 8, 10, 12 plus years on an account. So we don't recommend opening or closing accounts. So once you get your kind of your credit established, like if you had 3 to 5 credit cards and a car loan, or 2 or 3 credit cards and a car loan, then just use them all and pay them off each month, and then just let them get old. And then your credit score will continue to climb, until you get into that, high 700s or low 800s over the course of years, because unfortunately, to get that really high score, you need a long payment history on that.
Right. So a lot of people want, when I'm talking to them and getting them pre-approved, they're saying, oh, I'm going to pay all those things off and then I'm going to close the cards. And I always tell them not to close them. That tends to affect their credit score, that payment history. I feel like the payment history would still be there, but it's not factoring into their score the way it would if it's a paid as agreed account. Is that accurate? Yeah.
So I always use this analogy. Your credit score is kind of like a recipe, right? There's multiple ingredients, and too much of one thing is bad. Like salt makes things taste great, but if you put a whole thing of salt in your soup, it ruins it. So, FICO is the credit score used for lending. And so they want to see 3 to 6 accounts open. They want to look at your history, right? They don't want any late payments or collections. They're also looking at how many times have you applied for credit in the last year. They're looking at your mix of credit, like we just talked about. Right. And then they're looking at your ratios, which is your limit on your credit card versus its balance. And so if you have a long payment history, if you have 6 accounts, 3 to 6 accounts open, that's great. If you, applying for credit, only apply for credit when you absolutely need to, and then just don't open or close anything. And that's really the secret to having the highest possible score.
Awesome. Yeah, I've had clients working with them and getting them pre-approved, and their credit score was on the higher end, 750, 770, and then one account didn't get paid on time, and that one late payment dropped their score like 100 points. And in the past, if you can't get it removed, which I do tell people, try calling and see if you can get the late payment removed. It was a one-time thing. It was just an oversight, and sometimes they are able to get it removed, not always, but I've seen it take, 12 months to get it back up to where it was, previously, so we can get them pre-approved for something, which in that credit score range, we can. It's just going to affect the program a little bit, and, the pricing, the rate that they're going to get. But sometimes it can, depending on where we started, it can really affect how, what we can qualify them for, what we can approve them for. So I always tell people to just make the payments on time. Even if you can't pay it down, ultimately we want to keep the balance to limit ratio low, but if you can't pay it down, just make sure you're making the payment on time, because that's a huge factor in the score. It seems like, at least from looking at credit reports. So
yeah, I agree 100%.
What's a good time frame between mortgage inquiries, and how is that different from other consumer inquiries, like opening credit cards and things?
Yeah. So great question, Chrissy. So there's 3 types of inquiries. There's a soft inquiry. That's when I check my own credit. There's a promotional inquiry. That's when like a credit card company checks my credit and they want to send me a credit card offer.
Okay.
So soft inquiry and promotional inquiry don't impact your score at all.
Okay.
And then there's what's called a hard inquiry. Hard inquiry is like when you apply for a home or a car or credit card. A hard inquiry typically impacts a score 1 to 5 points for 12 months. Now, the good news is for a house and also for a car, there's a 30-day window where they allow you to have multiple inquiries, and it only hurts your score one time.
Yeah.
So if you have 2 or 3 lenders check your credit within 30 days, it only hurts you 1 to 5 points. So same thing, that goes for a house and a car. Unfortunately, each credit card application you apply for, it will impact the score 1 to 5 points. So
yeah, so that could really, sorry.
Yeah, obviously you just want to be careful. If you apply for 5 credit cards, I mean, you could ultimately cost you up to 25 points on that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, they kind of give you that time to shop for the best program, best rate, you know, so that's good. We have a lot of clients that we work with. They're like, oh, the other mortgage company just ran my credit, but I don't maybe want to work with them, or they don't have the program that I need. Is it going to hurt my score again? And so I do usually tell them, as long as it's within that shorter time frame, that we're okay. So
yeah, you're right.
A lot of clients say, oh, Credit Karma says my credit score is this, and it's not always the most accurate. Sometimes it's close, but I've seen, I don't know, I think you guys have mentioned like anywhere from like a 50-60 point swing once we actually pull a true tri-merge credit report. So how can consumers get access to accurate credit scores?
Yep, so there's only 2 ways. So if anybody's listening, take notes. Christy, you can pull credit, and that's going to give you accurate scores, or they can go to myfico.com. That's myfico.com. If you go to myfico.com, it's not free, unfortunately. You have to sign up for their monitoring service. They have 3 programs. In order to get all 3 scores, you got to pay for $30 per month to get their report and scores. Or you could do a one-time pull at $60. Now those are soft inquiries, so it doesn't hurt your score. But myfico.com is the only website that they can actually get all 3 of their mortgage FICO scores. And so, like you said a moment ago, Credit Karma is free. But they use what's called the Vantage credit score. So the Vantage credit score is a different formula than what FICO uses. And so I've seen it be 10 points off. I've seen it be 100 points off. And so unfortunately, if you're looking at Credit Karma, which don't get me wrong, I have a Credit Karma app, the scores are not going to be the same as the scores that you pull for the mortgage industry.
Awesome. Thank you. I know sometimes clients have collections and they want to jump on and pay that off. In my experience in looking at credit, if it's old, it usually doesn't make sense to go on and pay it, because then it starts reporting back into their history unless they can get it deleted. What's your take on that?
Yeah, so a collection is one of the worst things that can hurt your credit. And so when FICO looks at your credit report, a collection, whether it has a 0 balance or a balance, FICO penalizes your score the exact same. So if you pay off a collection, it doesn't impact your score. And then if you do pay the collection and they don't take it off your credit, there's a chance that they could re-age the collection like it just happened. And so the more recent the collection is, the more it hurts your score. So say I had a collection, my score dropped 100 points. Well, they fall off after 7 years. And so say the collection's 6 years old, it's probably only impacting your score maybe 15 or 20 points. If you went and paid it and the collection agency made it look like it just happened, your score could drop, 80 points from doing that. So I would recommend, we always offer a free consultation, is call our office, set up a free consultation. We'll review the collection with you, since we've helped thousands of people and we have contacts at nearly every collection agency. We might be able to do a pay for deletion, or we actually have direct access to the credit bureaus. We might be able to get an instant deletion for you as well. So definitely. Now I always say your credit score only matters when it matters. And so if you're in the position where you're going to be buying a house or a car in the next 12 to 24 months, then you really want to start looking at your credit and trying to get your credit score up, because you would probably know better than anyone, if someone's like at a 620 versus a 700, I mean, the rate and the payment could be way different on like a $500,000 loan.
Yeah, it can change significantly, and it depends on what you're trying to do. Some of the, cash out refis, they're not approving if they're under 700. We're having trouble with that. So, I mean, it can be done. It depends on the situation, but some credit profiles, we're just, we've got to be on that higher end. And then down payment assistance, they typically want to see a 640 credit score at a minimum. So even though FHA, they're mostly FHA programs, FHA will allow you to go down lower, 585, somewhere between 585 and 620. But if you don't have that 640, they won't do the down payment assistance. So, and you don't always get the benefit of being able to go higher on your debt to income ratio if you are within a certain window. So on the lower 600 score. So even though we can do the loan, I just did one. It was just a couple points under 620. And so in order to be able to do the FHA loan at the higher debt to income ratio, we did a rescore. And so they paid a couple things down just by a few $100 and, I think it was 8, 9 points. And that was all that we needed to get, we only needed 2 points, but we got about 8 or 9 points. So it worked out pretty well.
Awesome.
And they're closing on their $560,000 house next week.
That's great. I love stories like that.
Yeah, I mean, it can be done, and they're building credit and they're getting things paid off, and they're on the right path now. So I think they just, sometimes people just don't know and they need the advice and, So anyway, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Is there anything else that you want to add?
Yeah. So if anyone's looking for a free credit report, you can have access to a free credit report through annualcreditreport.com. Typically, prior to COVID, you only had access to this once a year. But since the pandemic started in March of 2020, they actually give you a free credit report once a week now. So you can go to annualcreditreport.com. The cool thing about this report too is it does tell you the month and the year the collection's coming off your credit. So if anyone has a collection on there and they think it might be falling off in the next year or so, you can go to annualcreditreport.com and it'll actually tell you when it's falling off your credit. That's the only credit report that actually has that information. So it does not include a credit score. So if you want a credit score, Christy, you need to pull it, or you got to go to myfico.com.
Okay.
But if you want a free credit report, annualcreditreport.com is your best bet. And then another thing, we've been seeing a lot of identity theft. So just make sure that you guys are checking your credit reports, on a quarterly basis if you don't have credit monitoring. And then if you see anything suspicious, you can do a fraud alert, or you can actually freeze your credit. The freezing the credit, if you're in the process of buying a house or refinancing, I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing that until after your loan closes. But a fraud alert is something you could do, a precautionary measure. And then, like I said a moment ago, we always do free consultation. We can help if you've been a victim of identity theft. That's something we can help with as well.
That's awesome. I'll get all these websites from you too, and I'll post them. I'll link them and post them because I want to add that in there so everyone has access to it. And then that was something I was going to ask you about. I have a lot of clients that freeze their credit. So when we go to pull, we have to have them unfreeze it. And it's something I've considered doing myself. I have alerts from my credit cards. So I do get alerts if someone runs my credit or charges something that seems suspicious. Whenever I buy something online, I get an alert. So it's like, I don't know if it's in another country or what. And so it flags it. It's like, was this you, which is helpful, but I've worked with clients where like my identity was stolen or, someone opened accounts in my name, and trying to get it cleaned up can be a total pain in the butt. So how do people, and maybe we can just post it, but what do you need to do to freeze your credit or to do the fraud alerts? Yeah.
So you can go to each credit bureau individually, and then they have a tab for freezing your credit or a fraud alert. Usually there's a $10 fee to freeze your credit and a $10 fee to unfreeze it.
Okay.
I know Equifax had a data breach a few years ago, and so they were waiving their fee to freeze and unfreeze.
Okay.
TransUnion and Experian typically charge $10 to freeze it, $10 to unfreeze it. The only thing, if you do freeze your credit, just realize you can still have identity theft. So I don't want someone to have a false sense of security. Okay. So it still makes sense to check your credit because they can still open accounts. And you can still have collections that are not yours because a lot of creditors, they don't do a credit check to issue something. And so I would make sure it's still a good idea to look at your credit, once a quarter, just to make sure there's no names or addresses that you have no affiliation with. we've seen multiple people that have similar names have accounts reporting. I had somebody call me from Lake Tahoe, and they're like, I've been a victim of identity theft. And I'm like, well, let's see your report. So he sends down the report, and he's like, well, that car loan's not mine. That credit card's not mine. That credit card's not mine. And I'm like, well, all these accounts are being paid each month. So I don't think a criminal opened these accounts and are making payments for you. So what we found out is someone had his same name and date of birth, and he was living in Texas. And so that person's accounts were reporting on this guy's credit report.
And can you guys help sort things like that out?
Yep, we sure can. Yeah.
Yes, I know you've helped several of my clients with other things too. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your team. You guys are great. And I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today.
Yeah, absolutely. So like our number one goal is, we want to be a resource for anybody that's struggling with bad credit. We want to provide hope, help, and guidance. And then obviously, if we can help someone save money with better credit, it's going to be a great situation for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really important in the mortgage buying or in the pre-approval process and home buying process. So it's something I talk to people about daily, several times a day. It's like, okay, how's my credit look? And we pull it up and they're like, oh, well, I need to get that taken care of. And I'm like, it's old, it's fine. It's not affecting things. Just keep paying your credit down, and trying to give the best advice that we can. And people don't realize it. They're like, oh, I'm going to go and pay that collection off. And I'm like, hold on, don't just start, because it can affect things differently, and people don't realize that. And the closing of credit cards, I'm always like, don't do that. Just let it age out and throw it in a drawer if you don't want to use it, cut it up, whatever, but don't close it.
Yep. I agree 100%.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jeff. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, you bet.
If there's anything else you can think of, let me know, and I'll get all of the links from you and the websites, and I'll post them with our videos so people have access to it.
Yeah.
With all of your information as well.
That's great. Yeah. And then just anybody that wants a free consultation, they can go to our website, which is bluewatercredit.com, or they can call our office at 315-9190. And so, we're here to be a resource for anyone that, wants advice on their credit.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll post all of your contact information as well.
Cool.
So they have access to it.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. It was nice talking to you. Good seeing you.
Yeah, good to see you too. Tell Ryan I said hi. And if there's anything else that we could do to support you guys, just let me know.
You guys always do a great job of it. And Kara, I love Kara. She used to work with us here, and she was on our team when I was in Roseville, and just love her. She's great. And all the girls over there, they take great care of us. So
awesome. All right.
Thank you.
Christy.
Have a good day.
You too. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.